do. I don't want you to have to go to, someone said an institution or a nursing home.
Are you aware that the Ryan budget, which you support, would put an end to Medicaid, Medicare?
What it does is it gives it to the state so that they can make the priority decisions over how to spend that money within Medicaid, because Medicaid is a joint state and federal program. And right here in Washington State right now, they are making really tough decisions on Medicaid. They had to, the governor even proposed to eliminate the basic health plan, to eliminate the disability lifeline, critical access hospitals were, and that's because the federal government wasn't giving Washington State, giving Gregoire and the legislature the ability to decide how best to spend those money within Medicaid. They had applied to the federal government for a waiver, a universal waiver, and they were denied. And I don't think the federal government knows better than Governor Gregoire and the legislature here in Washington State. I really believe that they are closer to us here. They know the needs. Your local representatives are going to make better decisions than some person in Washington, D.C. And that's what the Ryan budget did. It said, we're going to give those decisions back to the states to prioritize. And I recognize Medicaid was intended for the low income, for the developmentally disabled, for those really in need, the neediest. And it is an important safety net that we have in this country and in every state. It's very important. Right. But it's on a path right now where it's not going to meet the needs of those that it's really intended.
It already hasn't been meeting the needs of the
people.
And
voting to cut Medicaid $48 billion, which you voted for, you had more power than that. And we got to remember coal. If you don't support Medicaid, coal might need it someday.
I understand that. The current program.
And you voted to dismantle Medicaid and Medicare.
I did not.
Yes,
I voted to save these programs.
That's a misrepresentation, ma'am.
That's not.
You need to be
misrepresentation. We can't decide certain rights, and yes, it's not an entitlement, it's a right. Then maybe they should get voted out, including you.
Well, and that's
our right.
That's absolutely.
But the Republicans are so out of touch with what's going on in this country and how the American people feel. And it's a cop-out when you say you're taking it to the states.
We have another.
It's just a cop-out. We're not taking responsibility, so it's not even across the board, and so crazy states like Texas can do things like they do in Arizona. It's just not right.
Where are the revenue increases that would pay for
Let me
this?
kind of step in.
Yeah, we have a constituent.
I'd
like to speak to you for a minute.
No, we'll allow her to speak.
I support that happening. I support the states making that decision.
Prove it by your votes.
That's right. I have. I've proved that I want Governor Gregoire and the legislature, Republicans and Democrats agreed on that Medicaid.
And the problem is they look at us as numbers, not people. They look at this gentleman as a number.
I would say that's what the federal government does.
I think the state does too, because there's been major cuts to this program more in the last 5 years, and we've had wage freeze for the last 5 years. And you know what? You're not struggling to pay your bills, but he is, and so am I. Because I care for who I take care of.
we have someone here who would like to speak.
Okay, wait, ladies and gentlemen, let me just, I've got to take the Congresswoman to an important event at 1 o'clock. Why don't we, 5 minutes, is that fair?
Yeah, that's great.
So why don't we go ahead and hear her?
Hopefully it's going to a debate.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. My name is Carol Bryan. I teach in the Meade School District in Spokane. I've taught 23 years in the Meade School District, and I've taught 8 years at St. George's in a private school, so I'm aware of some of the problems that are coming up with charter school potentially. I've taught in different states for 5 years, and I've been home with my kids for 5 years, and I've had to live off my home equity for 1.5 years while I was sick. I won't be able to retire at 65 if the Medicare age is changed to 67. There are many, many, many teachers who would like to retire who are exhausted because the system we're in now isn't the system we signed up to teach in, and the goals aren't the same. But we cannot retire without Medicare. And we say we want to turn the school system over to younger, energetic people. Well, the teachers that would like to retire cannot retire without Medicare. So we need
some
to
of the
keep
best teachers that are retiring.
Well,
I
that's
might
possible,
suggest,
too.
But on Medicare specifically, again, I would say, I am committed to doing what I can to save Medicare and to making sure that that program is around for a long time. And any of the changes that we proposed, it didn't make any changes to anyone that was 55 and over. And what
Divide
it
and
is,
conquer.
it's looking at, that program is set to go bankrupt. Bankrupt in 2017.
Because of Republican votes.
Right.
Because of the
You
war.
and your supporters have been continuously undercutting this, and then you blame us for the fact that it's
It
going
was
on.
President Obama's
very
health care
successful.
bill that cut
This started well before President Obama. Do not try to misdirect
Off of
it.
Advantage
No.
programs.
Seriously.
No, it is
Now
not.
let's get moving on to the next person. You said 5 minutes per person, let's get 5 minutes per person here. You get plenty of time to speak when you go to DC. Let them speak now.
I'm here to listen, I am. I'm also here to tell you some of the truth of what.
Well, we don't listen to Fox News, so.
We'd all be happy if we just had your health care coverage and your health care plan.
Or if you had ours.
For health care.
I
Walk a day in their shoes.
Here is a fact sheet about that report that we gave you, and these are some of the actual facts of how this Ryan budget does cut Medicare, and this is what you voted for. So we just thought we'd let you know that we are aware of
What your
the ins
votes
and outs of the Ryan budget and what it does and what it doesn't do. And being your constituents, we are watching because we want your priorities to be our priorities.
I know from
Appreciate that.
teaching that some things have to be at the federal level. I have taught many years in many states. It doesn't help me for retirement at all. I might as well have not worked for those years. And we need, some things have to be fair for everybody in this country, and healthcare is one.
Thank you.
Exactly right.
And that,
That's
the
what
other
makes
thing
us
I'd like
American.
to just interject is that we're not just greedy old folks. I belong to 2 retiree organizations, and our children and our grandchildren need something secure. As you go from company to company or change careers, only Social Security follows you, only Medicare. I have a daughter in Texas, grandson in California. There's 3 teachers in our family. We've been in lots of different things, as well as private business. And there's a lot of experience back there, and a lot of times without support. And those are important for future generations. And we just ask that
The strength of this country starts with strong families and strong communities. And I appreciate the fact that you care, that you're involved, because I think we're all going to make better decisions when we have these kind of conversations. I do.
I worked forever, and when my daughter was 2, she developed juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. 2 months later, she went into a coma and nearly died. From that point on, she had a pre-existing condition. I kept her insured through COBRA whenever I had to leave a job to take care of her. But we could barely survive. Finally, somebody at the school said, how about Medicaid? We didn't know we were eligible because we worked. But we were, and she got Medicaid. I became disabled when I was in my 50s. Alice has been on Medicare since she was 18. Her pre-existing condition thing, if I hadn't been able to meet the COBRA payments, she would have had no health care insurance at all. And Obamacares would take care of that. I did everything I could, but we went into bankruptcy twice because we could not afford the many medical expenses we had. I think everybody should have as good insurance as we have with Medicare. It's better than any of the insurance I paid for when I was working. And and she's still sick, and luckily she's covered because she can't work.
Right.
And I don't know, with Obamacare is
I
what
hear
helps
you.
that, but I don't
I'm not so sure.
They
I'm not so
will,
sure.
We are.
We'll get rid of
Try to find a doctor right now in Eastern
I
Washington
have.
who will take a new Medicare patient. I
Try to find
encourage you
doctors.
to- And the
We
reason,
did that.
Well, it's very
We just did it
difficult.
too.
We have one
Little
last
Rock
thing
would
here.
do new funding with Medicare.
It's very difficult
State
because-
and Medicare will provide more funds.
And you can't tell
They're
me
not,
that
they're
you-
cutting the reimbursements right now to doctors.
Medicaid,
Awesome.
Yay!
Medicare is. And at the state level, they're considering cutting at the state level too.
If there's a
So it's getting
program like
harder and
Medicare
harder
for
to
all,
find the doctors, the
there's
specialists that you
benefits for
need.
Medicare that will help cut
Okay,
down
one more.
drug
You know, I was-
expenses
you
and
know,
other
Mark.
benefits like free wellness exams every year. There will be benefits.
Well, you know, Kathy,
We do actually have a doctor.
We have a doctor in
here,
around
so,
more than we do of the
he said
American
he's
people.
already.
And they don't pay for it.
Have
Hey,
more money
guys,
than the Democrats.
We have one
and
other
do spend
person that
more
wants to
money
speak real quick.
on war. And so if you stop some of the wars and quit supporting all the wars and trying to govern the whole world, maybe you could afford health care for the American people. Only for
The
the
last
country
point
that
here.
doesn't have it. It's wrong.
I want America to have the best healthcare system in the world.
We
And
have
copying
crappy healthcare now.
Canada or Great Britain, where people have even longer waiting lists and
The
this-
See,
people
that's an
I know
exaggeration.
there,
This is
all
complete
say insurance is the best. That's not true.
Let's let this last person speak.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, go
Sorry.
ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm a small business owner. I make electric cars out of gas cars, so I have something real quick to say though. Medicare and Medicaid is too important to leave. It just,
Yes.
everybody will just, you know, do what they're going to do to it, and it'll just crumble. Anyways, in April 2006, standing up for the Republican virtue of personal responsibility, Mitt Romney signed a law requiring every citizen in Massachusetts to buy health insurance. It's a Republican way of reforming the market, he said then. Because let me tell you, having 30 million people in this country without health insurance and having those people show up when they get sick and expect someone else to pay, that's a democratic approach. That's the wrong way. And that is basically what the Affordable Health Care Reform Act is about.
The right has shifted further to the
Everybody
right. This used to be, the things that you're against, used to be the platform of the Republican Party.
there's a difference.
And now, the Tea Party has hijacked it and taken it in a different direction, and you've been following that like a dog on a leash. And we're tired of
Mother's
it.
not
There's a
voting
difference
Republican
between
this year.
the federal government making these decisions and the state governments making these decisions.
Well, our state passed the basic health option, which
Right.
when it kicks in 2013 and 2014, will put us as the #1 state.
Yeah.
And we were the ones that brought 3,000 people over there to Olympia to get that fought for. And right now, I'm sorry to take a little bit more of your time, but right now, as a disabled veteran, you speak very highly of the support of the veterans and supporting our troops and all that stuff. Continuously, every single time going into VA healthcare centers, this continuous talk about what the Paul Ryan budget plan is going to do as far as causing massive layoffs. Because the super committee could not decide on progressive revenue, we have huge cuts in the Department of Defense. What has come out of that? Paul Ryan, the person you are supporting, the representative you are supporting, the budget you are supporting is making huge cuts, not into our wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, our support of Libya, all these other things. No, they are taking it. They're taking it far more than any other group. It's coming out of the Department of Veterans Affairs, which is our hospitals. And as a man who served in Iraq, who nearly lost his life 3 times, I find it very despicable that you could even say that you're about the troops.
VA, we protected the funding for our veterans and for the VA. There were no cuts. In fact, it was actually increased a little bit in the Ryan budget.
That's not correct.
Yes.
We have another,
You'll have to-
who would like to speak.
Okay, I have to get her to a meeting, so why don't we have one quick comment, and then why don't, ma'am,
Thank you for coming.
why don't you go ahead and sum it up for us?
With your medical speech, I'm still being here.
Great.
Just kind of overall listening to kind of my first experience
You
on
okay?
the whole side. And I just want to say, you know, as you're going forward in your legislation,
I figured my
the purpose, I got into being a doctor to take care of people. And I know that especially the economy, the way things are, deficits being the way they are, both Republicans and Democrats, federal, state level, you guys are making really tough decisions. You know, the Obamacare, like you said, $500 billion off primarily Medicare Advantage. There's a lot
Not
of
just
cuts.
Medicare Advantage, folks. It's home health care, it's oxygen, it's...
Yeah, my point is like there's some really tough decisions to be made financially from both sides, and there's always going to be groups that are losing and winning from whatever changes you make on the healthcare system. But just remember, like as you're moving forward, to try to think about the purpose of healthcare. Its overall purpose to take care of the most people, allow them to be happy and healthy and live a long life. So if you kind of just have that as your guiding principle moving forward, I think that you and the Democrats on both sides will be able to create some better legislation.
Well said, there's nothing more personal than our healthcare. And that is where I believe it is most important that when it comes to healthcare, that the decisions are made by you and your doctor, not the federal government. Healthcare belongs in the hands of the individuals and the doctors and
You have to be able to the doctor first. They get to argue with the doctors. They're not working for us.
Well, not the insurance companies and not the federal government. No, I don't.
The only problem I would say to that is just that for the millions of Americans that don't have access to hospitals, they don't even have that conversation.
They have access to hospitals. They go to the emergency room all the time.
Right, and look how it's been progressed.
So they have access.
to sit there.
Yeah.
I know, it's not the best way to do it.
Right.
So you agree we need a single payer program?
I feel like the referee here. Why don't we go ahead and you have some closing remarks?
I do. We just wanted you to explain why your priorities didn't seem to be our priorities. Rather than more giveaways to the rich and subsidies to the oil companies, we need a budget that protects middle-class economic security by protecting our families' health care. It's time everyone paid their fair share of taxes and that politicians who will represent the middle-class priorities with as much enthusiasm as you support the richest Americans who donate to your campaigns. It's time for you, Congresswoman, and your colleagues to answer to us constituents for your vote. And why is it that more tax breaks for the rich instead of protecting Medicaid and Medicare for seniors, children, people with disabilities, and working families in your district? We will not forget which side that you seem to be on, and that the Republican budget does not help our families or our economy or our state. In fact, the biggest beneficiaries of this budget are the rich who get a big tax giveaway while the rest of us get higher health care costs and shrinking benefits. That is not fair. Maybe politicians like you think that voters aren't watching and we won't keep track of which side our representatives are on when it comes to things that we care about. But you're wrong. Middle class families, seniors, and voters are watching, and we expect answers when you side with the rich and with corporations instead of protecting health care for all of us, your constituents.
Well, thank you.
That's why we're here.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it is nice that you let us. Thank you. God for a miracle.
You really want to save some budget? Single payer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That will, all the physicians are the first ones to tell you.
Right.
The physicians themselves will be the first ones to tell you, you would reduce their overhead by 40%.
We like single man. Oh, no, I'm not talking about
Well, it's so true. Look at what's
The waiting list is better than nothing at all, and it doesn't necessarily provide
They all
waiting.
support its economic development.
just because you have a Medicare card right now, just because you have a TRICARE card, just because you have a Medicaid card, I'm saying hypothetically, does not mean that you get access to health care.
We're just arguing now.
Leaving out the countless examples
just
that are doing
arguing
extremely
now.
successfully, like every
We're just arguing now.
country
Yeah.
where it's extremely successful. You keep bringing up Canada.
Congresswoman?
You're leaving out all the ones where it's actually very successful.
My sister has...
Why does everyone from around the world come to
I
America
think they are.
to access our?
Why are we?
The rich do.
The rich do.
That's right.
We do have amazing care for the richest among us. You're correct there.
Horrible death.
There's a hell of a lot more poor people in the world than there are rich.
And why are Americans being sent to India to get their medical work done there?
Why does my sister drink?
What? I don't know. Who made
A
her
year
wait?
and a half.
Who made her
Scam.
wait? Who made her wait?
Scam.
Who is that?
Southern California Insurance Company. So-called nonprofit.
Oh, man, when you get back.
Congressman, we do have
I'm sorry to hear.
Thank you for coming to your office, Kathy.
Thanks for sharing your story.
I think we have the same budget, right?